Hello, thank you for tuning into Kaieteur Radio. I am Kevin Smith, and welcome to your news at noon. These are the top stories we're tracking. Direct emissions from 3 Stabroek Block projects equivalent to burning over 260,000 hectares of Guyana's forests, says the CIEL president. PPPC-nominated commissioners table motions for dismissal of Lowenfield and Myers and Mingo. Meanwhile, Liza Phase 2, Piara, Yellowtail could each give Hess $1 billion annually, says Vice President John Riley, and CEO of GWI says previous management paid contractor 93% of monies and only 11.2% work was completed. Stay tuned to stay informed. And now for the news in detail. President of the Center for International Environmental Law, Carol Moffett, is of the firm conviction that the most recent constitutional case filed by 2 Guyanese against ExxonMobil's 3 projects, Liza Phase 1, Liza Phase 2, and Piara, is crucial to protecting the health of current and future generations. Moffett noted that the case highlights that more than 90 million tons of greenhouse gases will be emitted directly from those 3 projects alone. To put this into perspective, Moffett said it is tantamount to burning more than 260,000 hectares of Guyana's forests, or practically removing close to 80% of Iwokrama, which comprises 371,000 hectares of forest. Moffett said too that one ought to bear in mind as well that the case has not taken into consideration the emissions released from flaring due to the Liza Destiny's gas compressor being plagued by faults. Thus far, ExxonMobil has flared more than 14 billion cubic feet of gas since starting operations at the Liza Destiny vessel in 2019. And now let's tell you, PPPC-nominated commissioners of the Guyana Elections Commission, or GECOM, have tabled motions for the immediate dismissal of CEO Keith Lowenfield, Deputy Chief Elections Officer Roxanne Myers, and Region 4 Returning Officer Claremont Mingo. Now, the 3 officials who are currently before the court on charges related to electoral fraud have been cited for a series of grave violations connected to the March 2nd, 2020 elections, and for their defiance of the instructions by the GECOM chair, Claudette Singh, to use the recount figures for the final result of the elections. According to documents, commissioners of the ruling PPPC government, Bibi Shadik, Sis Conrad, and Manoj Narayan, have tabled 3 separate motions yesterday at GECOM's statutory meeting detailing the basis by which their requests for the dismissals should be made. In other news, while the COVID-19 pandemic might have unleashed economic hardships on many oil conglomerates like Stabroek Block partner Hess Corporation, its shareholders and executives are poised to be on cloud 9 once the Liza Phase 2, Piara, and Yellowtail projects offshore Guyana come on stream. According to John Riley, Executive Vice President and Chief Financial Officer for Hess Corporation, each project has the potential to rake in at least $1 billion every year. The Hess official made this disclosure during his participation at the UBS Global Energy Conference that was recently held online. In his contribution, Riley spoke to the financial health of the American Exploration and Production Company. Riley remarked that Hess ended the first quarter with $1.86 billion in cash, while adding that the recent sale of assets it held at Bakken, USA, raked in $312 million. And moving on. Under the leadership of the former GWI CEO, Dr. Richard Van West Charles, a contractor was reportedly paid 93% of the awarded contract, and only 11.2% of the work was completed. This was revealed by the current CEO of GWI, Sheikh Baksh. Now, Baksh disclosed that the company currently has a forensic audit being conducted, and one discovery that was made so far is in relation to the Vlasingen Road Newtown-Georgetown pipeline project. According to Baksh, 93% of the contract sum was paid to the contractor, but only 11.2% of the work was completed. Baksh stated that the contract was for $123 million and added that the sum of $114 million was paid to the contractor, which resulted in the sum of $87 million being paid above for the work that was done. As a result, the contract was terminated and legal proceedings were instituted against the defaulting contractor in the High Court. It is now 12 hours 16 in Guyana, and you're listening to Kaieteur Radio. This is your news at noon. Coming up after the break, Guyana records first pediatric brain aneurysm surgery. GWI begins process of laying off workers. 76 receive dismissal letters. And gold miner crushed to death by falling tree, 2 injured. Do stay tuned.
Guyana is now a full-fledged oil-producing nation. But how much do you know about this valuable yet finite resource? On our radio program, Guyana's Oil and You, we strike at the heart of every issue with informed views and credible data. The time is now for you to arm yourself with insightful knowledge on your oil wealth.
Welcome back. Let us continue with the news. Guyanese neurosurgeon Dr. Duki has successfully conducted the country's first pediatric brain aneurysm surgery. The groundbreaking procedure was performed by Duki and his team on a 13-year-old patient at the Woodlands Hospital on Carmichael Street, Georgetown. The recipient of the life-changing operation this time is Ty David. The St. Rose's High School student is expected to make a full recovery from the surgery performed on Monday night. Duki noted that David's case was brought to his attention by pediatrician Dr. Hardat Prasad after the teen lost consciousness owing to severe headaches. The doctor noted that a subsequent CT scan revealed that the teenager had suffered a spontaneous rupture, which resulted in extensive bleeding in the brain. Meanwhile, GWI began the process of laying off some of its employees on Monday by sending home 76 of them. We were able to confirm the development yesterday with the utility company's public relations officer, Liana Bradshaw. The workers were notified of their dismissal via letter. And moving on, a gold miner was reportedly killed around noon on Monday, while 2 of his crewmates were left seriously injured after a tree came crashing down on them at Sandil Bakdam Cuney River in Region 7. The now-dead miner has been identified as Ulrich Matthews, who is believed to be a resident of Port Kaituma. Those left hospitalized are 49-year-old Edwin Garraway of Diamond Housing Scheme and 40-year-old Brian Richard of Pomeroon River. It is understood that the men were at the time working on a mining operation owned by Romeo King, a miner. Sometime around 12 hours 45, during the heavy downpour of rain, the 3 miners were carrying out duties in the pit when the high winds caused a nearby tree to uproot, which fell in and hit them. And moving on, the dead body of 42-year-old Woodrow John Lepps was on Monday morning discovered in an abandoned house in Victoria Village, East Coast Demerara, with injuries to his head. A police report revealed that Lepps was unemployed and suffered from epilepsy. According to the deceased's sister, Rita Lepps, her brother visited her home on Sunday around 9 hours and collected breakfast and went to the abandoned building where he dwells. Investigators reported that a suspected wound was seen to his left side of his head. Meanwhile, while most people are wary of the dangers of second-hand smoke and the use of tobacco and tobacco products, medical researchers and health workers have warned that third-hand smoke is just as unsafe. Now, Dr. Indira Boj, the Registrar of Family Medicine at the Georgetown Public Hospital Corporation, explained the risk associated with third-hand smoke. Dr. Boj explained that third-hand smoke is the leftover smoke residue that remains in a room or vehicle after a cigarette is extinguished. According to her, this smoke residue contains nicotine and other harmful chemicals that can stick to walls, furniture, carpets, clothing, hair, toys, and other surfaces. Dr. Boj noted that the effects of third-hand smoke can be as dangerous as second-hand smoke or those smoking the tobacco directly. And moving on, 2 inmates of the New Amsterdam prison are presently recovering from incision wounds after they fought with each other on Monday. The wounded men have been identified as 40-year-old Devendra Samwaru and Ravin Ramdihal. It is being alleged that Ramdihal had cut Samwaru on his lower right arm first with a razor blade. Now, Samwaru, investigators revealed, inflicted some injuries on Ramdihal as well. Commander of the Guyana Police Force, Region 6 District, Jairam Ramlakan, shed some more clarity on the matter, stating that name calling was in relation to some sexual advances made on Samwaru by Ramdi Hall in the prison's bathroom. And on that note, we now head over to our COVID-19 update. According to Worldometer, the number of worldwide coronavirus cases has reached 172 million, with deaths at 3.5 million and recovery cases at 154.6 million. The Ministry of Health yesterday announced that 2 persons who tested positive for COVID-19 have died. Their deaths now push Guyana's COVID-19 death toll to 391. Those who died are a 94-year-old woman from Region 3 and a 44-year-old man from Region 4. 162 new COVID-19 cases were also recorded, taking the total number of confirmed cases to 17,114. A breakdown of new cases per region shows that Region 9 leads with 105 new cases, Region 4 with 39, Region 10 with 9, Region 6 with 3, Regions 2 and 3 with 2 cases each, and Region 5 with 1. 21 patients are in the ICU, 99 persons are in institutional isolation, 1,745 in home isolation, and 4 persons are quarantined institutionally. To date, 14,879 recoveries have been recorded. And just before we wrap up today's News at Noon, we now head over to the page 7 of the Kaieteur News that is dedicated to being blunt. Fellow Guyanese, we are all losing $1 million every month that goes by with this oppressive Exxon contract. We have no full coverage insurance from the oil people. Furthermore, this country does not know the interest rate we are paying on the $20 billion loans for Liza, 1, 2, and Payara, and we do not even know how much they are taking out for cleanup cost. This contract is worse than any oil contract in the last 100 years. It must be noted, however, that the contract allows for renegotiation, but our leaders, all of them, are not in favor of renegotiation. We need that contract to be renegotiated. We cannot sit back and allow this contract to throw us back into slavery or have us continue to look like beggars to the world. But we cannot win this fight in isolation. We all have to do our part to demand that the contract is renegotiated. And with that, we've come to the end of today's News at Noon. I'm Kevin Smith. Thank you for listening.
Want value for your advertising dollar? Then place your ads on Kaieteur Radio's Newscasts. Streamed live on 6 different mediums, reaching hundreds of thousands. Advertise today and watch your dollar grow. Call us on 225-8465